Is democracy the only necessary guarantee of peace and stability? There is no life after democracy. War is the last resort used in democratic countries. Democracy is an enemy of wisdom and intellect. We do ask many questions. We may meet in a market, in a coffee shop, in a gossip corner, or we may be the part of any parliament, or we may be sitting in kitchens, in libraries, or in offices. It is very much natural, innate, inborn among human beings to ask questions. The questions we ask are sometimes the most stupid and silly, while at the same time, the questions we ask are with logic and rationality. Sometimes we may ask a metaphysical question. Is there any life after death? The answer to these questions varied. Some say, yes, there is a bright life after death, while some may abruptly reject by saying, absolutely not. Okay, let's avoid that. Because this is somehow very theological and religious in sense. Viewers, in this video, I am going to ask another question which is philosophical in nature but politically relevant in the light of today. The question is democracy the only necessary guarantee of peace and stability? Or let it put in a simple way, is democracy the only best form of government? In modern political discourse, democracy have become widely acceptable and popular that it appears almost impossible or politically incorrect to question its existence. Those who are questioning the existence of democracy, they are condemned of being political sinners. This democracy has a long history. This democracy came to us with a lot of sacrifices, revolutions, and struggles. Go back to the time in the year 1689, there was a glorious revolution brought in the land of England when constitutional monarchy was installed. Rewind the time in the year 1776 when there was a war of independence in America and with the famous slogan of no taxation without representation. Rewind the time in the year 1789 when there was a famous French Revolution brought with its slogans of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Look at the history of the world. In post-World War II era, there was a massive decolonization movement going on throughout the world, wherein so many weaker states, nowadays known as third world countries, are Asian, African, and Latin American countries, got their freedom. In every phase, the pace of democracy saw a new acceleration and new progressive strengthening of it. The Prime Minister of England in the year 1944, when he was addressing to the House of Commons, he said that democracy is the worst form of government except others that mankind have tried from time to time. Democracy is not the only form of government. There are so many other brands of government also, but democracy is considered infallible. And nowadays it is called the only legitimate form of government. Rewind the time in the early 90s, there was a book written by a famous American political scholar, Francis Fukuyama. The name of the book was End of History and Last Man to Survive. In that book, Fukuyama said that history has ended, not in chronological sense, but in ideological sense, and liberal democracy has won over all other brands of government, and democracy have become immemorial. So, there was a question which I posed in the beginning. Is there life after death? The questions may be yes or no. But nowadays, there is only one answer, that there is no life after democracy. Such has been the popularity of democracy in our world today. In broader sense, every government is a check on human liberty. Max Turner, in his book The Ego and His Own, have said the purpose of every government is same everywhere. The purpose of every state is to limit individual, to control individual, to subordinate individual, to subjugate individual. From that perspective, every government is bad, every state is bad. But democracy is best because here the check is minimal and individual relatively enjoy more liberty in democratic setup rather than any other dictatorial setup. Now let's begin the debate on democratic peace thesis. Liberal scholars and most of others believe that democracy and peace are together. Viewers, let's begin the debate on democratic peace thesis. Those who support this thesis are mostly liberals, and they believe that democracy and peace are together, they are interlinked and interrelated. They are of the opinion that wars mostly occur in dictatorial, autocratic, tyrannical states, and there is no war between and among democratic states. They support this argument that democracy is the only necessary condition, necessary guarantee for peace and stability. These authors believe that democracy separates the zones of peace. Peace here in democratic states not only means absence of war, it means provision of that environment wherein individuals can live with creativity, can live at his best or be of his best. Democracy have a great respect for the dictum of popular opinion, popular sovereignty. There is a phrase that voice of God is the voice of people. Popular opinion is the biggest superpower in democratic environment. There is a phrase that voice of people is the voice of God. This concept of popular sovereignty finds its perfection in the real practicing democracy. In democracy, conflict management and conflict resolution is done through non-violent means. War is the last resort used in democratic countries, democratic world, and that war is used only for self-defense. Mostly the conflicts are resolved through diplomacy. Democracy rely more on accommodation rather than assimilation. Democracies rely more on decentralization of power rather than centralization of power. Real democracies rely more on consensus, debate, rather than confrontations. There are a great cultural bonds, shared values in democracies which make them more peaceful. Rule of law, sovereignty of people, free and fair elections, fundamental rights, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of life, liberty, property, pursuit of happiness. These are some core and cardinal values which all democracies in one form or other form ensures for its citizens. Democracies have also been called the highest form of politics. Long year ago, father of political science Aristotle have said that man is a political animal, and this political animal finds its highest perfection in only a democratic setup. Democracies have also a universal value, and it always keeps tyranny, authoritarianism at a distant end. It keeps tyranny at a bay. There are so many countries throughout the world who have a craze for democracy. So this universal acceptance of democratic values make it more reliable, and this paves the way for equitable society wherein peace and stability are its ethos. Those who are against this dictum of democratic peace thesis are mostly realist scholars. They say they believe that it is not necessarily that democracy is the only guarantee of peace and stability. There has been various examples throughout the history where we have seen that democracies have fought among and between themselves. Look at the World War One. Look at the World War Two. Look at the Cold War era, post-Cold War era. Look at the era of global war on terrorism. We have witnessed that various democratic countries have not only started war but also accelerated the war in various ways and manifestations. Woodrow Wilson, American president and father of idealism, have said in his speech when he has said that we need to fight a war to end all wars. In post World War One era, how there was appeasement towards fascism and Nazism practiced by various democratic countries. In Cold War era, democratic states conducted a lot of sacred operations and regime changes. The zones of turmoil were expanded. The realist scholars are also of the opinion that nation state demands power, and power can never be democratic. Power is always absolute, and absoluteness is tyrannical in nature. The critics also say that democracy is not a universal concept, rather, it is a Western concept, with Anglo Saxon countries as its main cultural originators. And sometimes critics also said that democracy is an enemy of wisdom and intellect. It is a type of government where people are counted, not weighted. One man, one vote, one value means even a devil and angel is one and equal in democratic setup. Despite all criticisms, we believe that any government is better than having no government at all. To end this debate, we may safely say that any form of government is better than having no government at all. If there is no government, there will be lawlessness, there will be anarchy. But democracy is better than all other brands of government here because democracy have maintained a kind of proper balance between liberty and authority, between state security and individual rights, and this balance have not been maintained by any other brand of government. So long live democracy.